We got a matcha, we got a candle burning. The vibes have been set. Welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome if you're new. Today we are talking all about moving out on your own, moving into your first apartment. Just a quick overview of what we'll be discussing. I'm going to talk about whether you should live alone or with roommates, some advice for how to figure that out. We're going to talk about what you should be looking for in an apartment and just some tips to make the apartment hunting process easier, and finish things out with a couple moving tips. Also, I am speaking from personal experience. I moved out on my own about a year ago, so I do know what I'm talking about, at least on some level. I will have timestamps linked down below if you guys want to use those to jump around the video. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, first things first, let's dive into the roommate situation. So should you live alone or should you live with roommates? This is honestly something that I really wrestled with for a while when I was trying to figure out my own living plans. I had different groups that I was supposed to room with, but ultimately I just kind of had this feeling in my gut that I should live alone. But I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all situation. So if you are trying to figure out whether you should live alone or live with roommates, I think the biggest thing that you need to think about is how do you recharge? This is like the big difference between introverts and extroverts, right? Like introverts really recharge from being alone and just having good high quality alone time, versus extroverts need social interaction to kind of refill their battery. Your apartment is your home, and the whole purpose of a home is to have a place where you can sort of recharge and rejuvenate. So if what helps you relax and recharge is being with other people, roommates might be a great option for you. Living alone might honestly drive you crazy and make you really lonely. But if you really recharge from being alone and you find socializing to be a bit draining and a bit exhausting when you do it, it might be better to live alone. It's just a difference in personalities and priorities. I think it's also helpful to kind of think about your fantasies. When you're picturing yourself out on your own, like doing the damn thing, moved out, are you picturing yourself in like a new girl friends type of situation where you're like vibing with your buddies, you guys are exploring the city together, you're doing chores together, it's a bunch of fun? Or are you really picturing yourself out on your own, living alone, doing things by yourself, being independent? And based on which seems more appealing to you, like you can really make that decision of what's right for you. Something else that I found really valuable is just thinking practically. Are there things that you really want to do alone or that you'd prefer to have your own space to do? This was a huge deciding factor for me because I knew that there are hobbies like YouTube that I really need an apartment to myself to do. Really think about it. Like it might not be just a hobby that you prefer to do alone. It could be that you're really particular about how you keep your kitchen and you want the whole kitchen to yourself because you love cooking. Or it could be just that you're really neat and you don't want to have to deal with constantly telling a roommate to pick up after themselves. Or maybe you're really particular about your home decor and you don't want to have to argue about shared spaces, you know? Even if you think back to maybe a college experience where you had a roommate, if you remember there being a lot of frustration with not having control over your own space or being frustrated by common spaces and having to deal with other people, maybe living alone is better for you. I know that I tend to be pretty particular about the aesthetics of my place and I really wanted an apartment where I could decide everything. So that was also a contributing factor for me where I was like, okay, I would much rather have my own space, get to actually decorate it, make it me, make it my own, and be fully comfortable versus have to deal with someone else's shit in my space. Not a fan of that. The last thing that I think you need to consider is unfortunately not so fun, but it is finances. There is a huge difference in the affordability of living alone versus living with roommates. Unfortunately, you might not even get the chance to think about those other factors if you're not financially able to live alone. Especially when you're moving to a city, I really recommend looking at rent prices and just getting real with yourself about what you can afford, because you would think that like a studio or a 1-bedroom would be like half the price of a 2-bedroom, but shockingly it's not. At least speaking to LA, it's really hard to find a cheap studio, and the price difference between a studio and a 2-bedroom is not as big as you would think. So this city and other cities are really made for couples or roommates. They are not greatly suited for young, independent solo livers. Like cities don't take into account the fact that young people with entry-level jobs might want to live alone. That rant aside, I do think it's important to get real about the finances of the situation and kind of figure out whether you're willing to pay the extra money it takes to live alone, especially in a city. Now we get into talking about the apartments themselves, how to know what to look for in an apartment. This is the part that excites me the most about making this video because I just love moving in general and I love apartments and I'm so fucking excited to possibly get to move again in the near future. What I really think you need to do is figure out your priorities and what you value most. I don't know where I heard this. I think maybe it was from someone's apartment hunting video. Basically, there are 3 pillars of apartments. Talking with my hands so much, it's because I got nails and I find it so satisfying to talk with my hands. There are 3 pillars to apartments and they are location, amenities, and price. As a general rule, you can only have 2 of the 3. So either you can have a decently priced apartment in a nice location but sacrifice on space and amenities, or you can have the amenities in the location but have to pay a ton of money, or you could have nice amenities, decent price, but maybe you have to sacrifice on the location. And there's no right answer to this equation. It's really about what you value most and what you're willing to sacrifice. Some things to take into consideration: if you are living alone and maybe you're a young person, especially if you're a female, you might want to put a little bit more of a priority on location, especially if you think you might be walking around a lot, getting home late at night, if you think you're gonna have to park on the street. You really want to be putting your safety first, and I encourage you to value location as one of your top factors when you're searching for apartments. If you work from home, the actual inside of your apartment might be more important to you. You might need more space because you're spending a lot of time in your apartment and you don't want to go stir crazy in like a studio. So it might be more important to you to have a really nice and motivating space if you know you're going to be working from home every day. Basically, think about your lifestyle or the ideal lifestyle that you want to build in this new location you're moving to. And based on your lifestyle, try to figure out what in an apartment would really make it easiest for you to achieve that. Something else that I found really helpful was making 2 lists. One list of non-negotiables and one list of nice to have. So the non-negotiables are things that you are not willing to budge on, that an apartment absolutely needs to have in order for you to even consider it. So for me, when I was looking for apartments, this included on-site laundry. I didn't need laundry in my apartment, but I definitely wanted it in the building or on the grounds somewhere. So on-site laundry was non-negotiable, and so was parking. I really wanted my own parking space. I did not want to have to stress about parking on the street, just not for me. Those are my non-negotiables. And then you want to have your list of nice to have. So this could be a gym, a pool, a lounge area. Maybe you would love to have stainless steel appliances, but it's not a deal breaker for you. Have these 2 lists, and this will really help you out when you are searching for your apartment to kind of narrow down your findings, be able to compare them easier on what they do and don't have. I feel like a spreadsheet can be really useful for this, where you have the apartment name or address on one column, and then you have, does it have a pool? Does it have a gym? Does it have parking? Does it have this? So you can really compare and contrast and throw the prices on there too, so you know what you're paying for what you're getting. Another piece of advice that I just think is honestly golden when you're searching for apartments is when you go to tour the space, and I'm aware that you can't always tour. Sometimes you're moving to a location that's kind of far away, but if you have a friend nearby, I would really suggest having them go to tour it. I just think having a tour, if possible, is so smart because pictures online can be deceiving. You never know. It's so much better to just go there, get the vibe, see the unit in person, and just get a more realistic look at the location and the apartment itself. That tangent aside, when you go to do your tour or when your friend does your tour for you, try to imagine your day-to-day there. Get really practical about it and think, what could I use this space for? Where would my couch go? Where would a TV go? Oh, this drawer would be really good for my makeup. And this drawer would be great for my groceries. Like, think about it in those practical terms. Try to imagine how you could lay it out, where you could put your furniture. And this just makes sure that you're really being practical about the space and how you could use it, how it could fit into your day-to-day life, and not just getting carried away by the flashy parts of the apartment that might be cool, might be a selling point for you, but they aren't the most important. What's really important is, hey, could I live in this space? Is it livable? Does it have enough storage? Does it have the room for the furniture that I want? Just getting a more realistic picture for how you can fit into that space and how that space could fit into your life. All right, the last thing that I want to tell you guys is just some quick moving tips that I think could be useful if you're moving into your first space. So number 1 is to move light. Do not carry all of your crap with you when you move. I think moving is a really wonderful chance at like a fresh start and a fresh slate. And you're really sabotaging that if you just bring a bunch of shit from your past, from your childhood, like all of that into your new space. That doesn't mean that you can't bring things that you love or that are sentimental or whatever, but I really encourage you to pack lightly and just bring the essentials. It's gonna give you that feeling of, hey, this is a fresh start. It's really exciting when you have that blank slate to fill up with items that you really love. And it's gonna make the moving process a whole lot easier because there's less stuff you have to worry about transporting. And the last tip in this category is don't furnish your place too quickly. I know this might seem a little counterintuitive. You might be like, well, I want it to feel like a fucking home, so I'm gonna move things in as quickly as possible. I'm gonna get furniture as quickly as possible. I want stuff up on the walls. And that's all great, and you're gonna get there for sure. But something that I really love about what I did when I moved into this space is that I really added one piece at a time. And if you go back and look at all of my like apartment decor vlogs and my moving vlog, you'll see the evidence. Like, things came in very slowly, but the reason that I did that was I wanted to make sure that I was getting things that I loved, that I was 100% sure about all the purchases that I was making, and I really wanted to appreciate and value every new piece I got. I didn't want to just cheap out to furnish the whole place in a day. Like, I would rather wait a couple months in between purchases and get pieces that I really love and that are gonna make me feel really good about my space instead of just whatever I can find for the cheapest price. I definitely think when it comes to decorating, furnishing your new apartment, good is better than fast. Don't stress too much about having it all done right away. Instead, be really intentional about it. Think through your decisions, you know. I've even photoshopped new pieces or new artwork that I want to get onto my walls to like see what it looks like. It seems a little crazy and maybe a little excessive, but as somebody who has not always loved their spaces and who has always kind of had this frustration with not quite getting it right, like 100%, like take your time, look through Pinterest, look through different websites, like spend 3 days searching for a couch. It seems a little crazy, but it's gonna pay off long term. Your space is really important. Like I said at the beginning, it's your oasis, it's your home. It's the place where you should feel the most comfortable and the most relaxed, and you just want your furniture and your decor to make that easier. Okay, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you're currently planning to move, let me know about those moving plans down in the comments. I would love to hear about it. If you're not planning to move, but you still watch this video because you love me, then I love you too, and thank you. Have an amazing day, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Gotta throw in the sneaky plug. Okay, bye guys.
Yeah, his baby said that they don't got a future like it burns. So give him something worse to kill his head with, make him forget somehow. Might be that another day she would have wished he stayed, but they're done.